Hey, do you have a favorite Genshin content creator? Do you have someone in particular you go to for character guides? You may not realize this, but even if you hate theory crafters, even if that creator hates theory crafters, all of those guides are thanks to the efforts of theory crafters. Even for creators with an unfavorable opinion of theory crafters that offer opinions that deviate from the recommendation of theory crafters, it's still more often than not a telephone game version of the original recommendation of those theory crafters. When it comes down to it, practically every aspect of content creation regarding ways to make your gameplay experience smoother in Genshin comes down to the work of theory crafters, even, if not especially, when the person giving those recommendations has a problem with them. Theory crafters are a major backbone in almost every part of the Genshin community that actually involves playing the game. They put in a lot of work, and oftentimes they don't get credit for that work. Their work is extremely reliable, and they've more than earned the credibility they hold within their communities. So, why am I saying there's a problem with theory crafters? This isn't meant to be some sort of a hit piece. I'm not encouraging any kind of harassment towards any theory crafters, and I won't be calling anyone out. This is entirely meant to be a form of constructive criticism to improve something that, in my opinion, is a flaw in the methodology being implemented by theory crafters. So let's talk about the scientific method. Just in case we need a refresher, a very basic summary of the scientific method is that it begins with making an observation. It's followed by researching relevant data, then forming a hypothesis, creating an experiment to test that hypothesis, analyzing the data from that experiment, and reporting a conclusion. However, one thing that's often forgotten is that this process must be repeated. Imagine I was studying an animal. I set out at night to observe its sleeping habits. I researched its habitat, diet, hunting and foraging habits. I discovered that this animal hunts another animal that is known to be nocturnal. Based on my research, I formed the hypothesis that this animal is also likely nocturnal. So, I formed an experiment to test that hypothesis. I decided I will find this animal's habitat and observe the amount of time this animal spends sleeping between sundown and sunrise. After conducting the experiment, I found that the animal slept 3.5 hours total over the course of the night. From my background research, I know that other animals like it have been reported to sleep a total of 10 hours a day, so I conclude that my hypothesis was correct. This animal is nocturnal and spends the majority of its time sleeping during the day. That's a wrap. I published my findings. Everything is great. Now, imagine another researcher also decides to conduct this experiment because they discover this animal is also known to hunt a diurnal or active during the day animal. The results show that the animal also sleeps 3.5 hours total over the course of the day. They publish their findings, and I'm left out of the scientific community. I lose all my credibility, and I'm no longer trusted as a source. Had I repeated the scientific method, it would have allowed me the chance to control for unpredicted variables. I would have noticed that I lacked the data on the daytime sleeping habits of the animal, and that would have encouraged me to remove the nighttime variable from the study by conducting the experiment over the course of a full day. All of my research was sound, all of my figures were accurate. I put in good work with this experiment, but it just isn't possible to control for all variables with one journey through the loop. The absolute most important factor for a tested hypothesis to be concluded as a sound theory is that the results can be repeated over the course of many experiments. That brings me to the problem I see in many theory crafters. They, as we all do admittedly, have a lot of difficulty letting go of an idea when the experiment doesn't work in that idea's favor. For example, we can look at... You thought I was gonna say Dia. No, not yet at least. Hazo and Wonder. Say you're a theory crafter. You see Wonder doesn't consume stamina for charge attacks, and charge attacks do more than normal attacks with Shimenawas, so you look at all the multipliers, you run the numbers, and it seems like, yeah, charge attack spam is pretty nice. Or you see Hazo, and you do the same thing for N1C. Mathematically, these seem like the best course of action. Charge attack spam for Wonder and N1C for Hazo are the best combos. So you set out to test that hypothesis. However, you find that the knockback from those combos actually ends up hurting your DPS. What do you do? Do you conclude the character just doesn't work? Or this combo feels bad, so the character feels bad? Not if you're following the scientific method. What should happen in this case is that you return to your hypothesis. There was a variable you couldn't initially account for. Now that you know the problem within those combos, you can find a new combo that possibly doesn't have that problem. Do the same things you did initially, now accounting for the knockback, and come up with a new hypothesis. Run the test again, and again, and again, to make sure there aren't any other variables impacting your testing. Have someone else run the test. Run it against other combos. If after all that, you find that nothing works, then you can soundly conclude that the character doesn't work. Why is this so important? Because, just like in my animal examples, you aren't the only one conducting testing. In the case of Wonder and Hazo, other creators are out there finding ways to make them work. So in ironic twist of fate, players end up trusting creators with less credibility. You put in all this work, but the moment someone else finds a way to undermine a hasty conclusion on your part, it's over. With seemingly no effort, another creator has made it seem as though your diligent work is unreliable and a waste of time. They don't have to show their work. They don't need transparency. All they need is a result that counters your conclusion, and they leech away your credibility. They can even mislead their audience to get that result. All that really matters in this case is that they disproved your conclusion. So, any theory crafters that might be watching, please be more careful before offering a conclusion. Failure is essential to experimentation. To arrive at the right answer, we have to be willing to be wrong a few times along the way, both in theory crafting and in life. Now, for the elephant in the room. Man, y'all gotta find the time to test her in Melt outside of Ganyu. You've already found that this is at least functional, so it's only a matter of time before somebody takes advantage of the variable application speed of her burst and undermines all the work you put into testing her by finding an optimal comp for it that you didn't consider. Yeah, she's got flaws, she's pretty bad, but a 45 to 60 second Abyss clip is all it takes to push the narrative that you were biased and only cared about showing how bad she was in most situations and clickbaiting it instead of being a credible source that cares about helping players make the best choices for their characters. Anyway, I decided to put off the rest of the level 90 series for a bit, gathering footage for it while trying to prepare for a lot of upcoming characters at the same time. It's put a bit of a damper on my resources. So I decided to wait until I plan to level 90 someone else soon, rather than invest into a character I'll only ever use for the sake of a 60-second clip in a video. Level 90 Part X. Don't level 90 character you don't intend to play. That said, thanks for hanging out. Bye.